All right, so we are back. Sorry I'm late, but I needed a day to recover. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley went down Sunday, and we were on live stream watching it all. It was one of the most fun experiences I think I've ever had. It is our highest viewed video on this YouTube channel. Unfortunately, YouTube was not able to handle me shaking my cakes live on stream, so they pulled the video down. But that doesn't change the fact that each and every one of you that came by and supported, you mean the world to me. You are the heartbeat of this channel, and regardless of the BS copyright stuff, we're just getting started, I promise you that. But of course, we're here today to talk about what happened in the Tyron Woodley-Jake Paul fight. Yes, Jake Paul wins a split decision victory, but was it closer than that? Did Tyron win this fight like he thought he did? Or outside of the one big shot from Tyron Woodley in the 4th round, did Jake win this fight going away and one judge just had it wrong? What was the reason I was throwing more shots down my gullet than Tyron Woodley was throwing in the boxing ring? There's a lot to get to. I won't waste any more time. Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley, the main event in Cleveland, Ohio, the breakdown. Let's go. All right, so first things first, I nailed this prediction right off rip. I told you guys this would be a Jake decision. Now, things went differently than I thought would happen, and we're going to talk about that, but I did see both guys being very hesitant with their power, and at least for the most part early on, that's what we saw. So as soon as the fight started, Tyron Woodley comes out and throws a big right hand off rip, and that, in my mind, was like, okay, Tyron is not going to be on the back foot. No hesitation. He's going to be front foot, and that motor is going to be going. And that was just going to continue to run throughout the 8 rounds. And to a degree, yeah, that's kind of what happened, because his motor was running, but it was almost like one of those guys that you pull up to at the stoplight that wants to race, so he revs the engine a couple times, and then when the light turns green, you both kind of just ease off the gas and go at the regular speed limit. And Jake wasn't on the front foot walking Tyron Woodley down. That's one thing that I think was a little different than how I had seen it. I thought Tyron would be more reserved and on the back foot, and Tyron was the one on the front foot with the pressure, just no punches behind it. And it's something that Jake took advantage of right away. As Tyron came forward, it looked like the game plan from Jake's team was to allow him to fight off the back foot and to not give in to Tyron coming off the back foot and lull you into the big right hand. Jake and his team scouted Tyron very well, and I was impressed with Jake's patience early and some poise later on in the fight. So yeah, the first round, like I said, Jake behind the jab, doing his thing. He's working the body. He did a lot of things that I knew he could do at a lower level, but I didn't know if it would translate as the talent began to get better and better and better. Tyron Woodley is the most talented guy he's faced, and he was still great with his shot selection off the back foot. He was taking the jab to the body. He also had a high jab feint with the right hand to the body to then set up the left hook. And so, like I said, Jake wins the first round by sticking behind his jab. He's throwing some nice shots out there as well, but again, I was more impressed with just the patience of both guys. As we got into round 2, one thing I started to notice was that Jake was throwing combination punching, which we thought he would do, but in kind of a revamped new age combat sports technique that a lot of people are using now. And again, it's impressive that Jake is scouting other people and implementing what they do or what he's seen them do into his game. When Jake was out of orthodox position, he would throw out his right hand, whether it was the straight right hand to the body, the overhand over the top. Either way, when Jake threw out the straight right hand, he would step with it, right? Effectively putting him into a southpaw position for him to follow up with that corkscrew straight left hand out of southpaw, and then from that, even stepping with it again to get back to orthodox for the left hook. That was a 3 or 4 punch combo where he was doing a lot of those things moving into range so that if Tyron pulled back, which he does, and we said he would do, Jake would still catch him on the end of the second or maybe even the third shot with that momentum coming forward. That's why we said the head movement off the center line and cutting angles out would have been better for Tyron or Jake. So again, Jake has success in the second round, and that's why I say that Tyron's pressure, while it was great work, everything we said he should do, be there in front of Jake, make him work off the back foot, expose that gas tank, see what Jake has as we go into the later rounds. He was checking off all the boxes except the one where you have to land punches. Tyron was controlling the pace, he was there, but Jake was controlling the action of the fight. Jake was first. Jake was the one throwing the jab out. Jake was the one following it up. So like I said, I thought Jake won the second round. I thought he won a close third as Tyron was starting to ramp up at the end of the third round. He lands a beautiful straight right hand. I think that lands as the timer goes, and I think that was a sign of things to come because it's in almost the exact same position that he damn near drops Jake in the 4th round, and there's a little face-to-face there where Tyron says something to him. I don't know if something clicked in his mind there, that he had landed a big-time shot, and this was finally his time to start turning it on, and maybe he sensed that Jake was starting to slow down because Jake was absolutely starting to slow down. But nevertheless, I still think Jake won that round very close. Then we get to the 4th, and this is, in my opinion, where the fight changes completely. And this is why, because in the 4th round, you're starting to see Jake slow down a bit. Tyron's pressure is paying off. He's starting to see the young guy get a little clumsy with his footwork, overstepping to one side, crossing over his feet, on both sides, throwing wide, looping right hands and looping left hooks. All those things that Jake can somewhat get away with because of his hand speed early, but when the gas tank goes and the discipline and the fundamentals aren't quite there, that's when things start to fall apart a bit. So when we get into the latter part of the 4th round, here is where the absolute fucking hammer comes down from Tyron Woodley. A beautiful shot, and it's something that, again, that Jake has been vulnerable with time and time again. It is the big right hand over his check left hook. Tyron Woodley crow hops into range like a center fielder from the fucking Cleveland Indians and throws an absolute tomahawk. And when he does, Jake turns the left hook, but again, a tired Jake, a guy that's fundamentals are leaving him as his gas tank starts to dwindle, throws the left hook out, but he turns his head completely away from the action. One thing in boxing and really sports in general, as a fundamental, you don't want to take your eyes off the action, and when you do, it's the shots you don't see coming that hurt the worst. Woodley lands that motherfucker. Jake goes stumbling and bumbling back and then leans into the second rope like Rey Mysterio about to hit a 619. That dude was hurt. It was a big shot. It was the first shot that Jake has ever taken clean, and the first time we've ever seen him hurt or have to face adversity. And also, yes, guys, that's probably a knockdown. If the ropes aren't there, Jake probably hits the ground, which would mean that the ropes helping Jake stay up should have registered as a knockdown. Absolutely. Fair play to him. He bounced off the ropes and tried to get his wits about him, but he was standing straight up. There was no bend in the legs. That's a sign of a hurt fighter, and Tyron had the opportunity to do it, but 2 or maybe 3 key things prevent Tyron Woodley from getting the finish right here in the 4th round. Number 1, he was chasing Jake around the ring. How many times on this channel have we talked about not chasing guys, but cutting it off and staying in front, meeting their momentum with your own, and not allowing them to circle continuously around the outside of the ring? Jake did this, and it helped him recover. Number 2, as Tyron was continuing to follow Jake, he was unable to put combinations together. In those exchanges and those little transitions, you could take advantage of the holes that are going to open up because Jake is tired. He is hurt. The hands might not be where they're supposed to be. He's crossing those feet over to get away. That was the moment, bigger than any other, where Tyron needed to throw those combinations that everyone wanted to see. He just didn't. And the last and probably biggest reason Tyron did not finish Jake in the 4th round, Jake cracked him with an absolute hammer of his own as Tyron came into range. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I know to the extent Tyron was hurt here. The important part is that Tyron Woodley felt that shot. It hurt him bad enough for Tyron to not put himself in harm's way to that extent again. That's Tyron's round. You can even say it's a 10-8 round. I still don't think it matters because I did have Jake winning 6 of the 8 rounds, which still would have netted him a victory in this fight, but nevertheless, we go to the 5th round. I think it was a close one. Tyron landed another big-time shot in this round, but Jake also did on his part as well. And again, he did land more. So the 6th round was more of the same. This is why I said that 4th round changed Tyron, because you started to see him let off the gas, even when his corner was saying, Tyron, we need you to go first. It's not ring generalship if you fail to attack. What general on the battlefield gets all the flanks ready, has air support, the tanks are ready to fire, he holds his hand up, and just stands there, waiting and waiting and waiting while his men get picked off left and right. The parallel I'm trying to make is that Tyron's pressure means nothing when it isn't capitalized upon it. And Jake was throwing and landing even off the back foot. Boxing is not the sport of pressure with no offense. It is the sport of landing without being touched. So I thought Jake got the 6th. I thought he got the 7th. I actually thought Tyron won the 8th, so I gave Tyron round 4 and round 8. I do think Jake wins this fight. I thought he won it 6-2, and even with the 10-8 round in the 4th, Jake still, in my scoring, would have won this fight. So yes, I think this was the right decision. I don't know what the referee that gave Tyron a 77-75 victory was really watching. Not that Tyron couldn't have won this fight. He absolutely could, and maybe you could even argue should have won this fight had he actually thrown punches and done the things that he probably knows now, a day after the fight, he should have done in certain positions. But that's not how this works, and you don't just get points for being the aggressive pressure fighter in boxing. You do have to throw and you have to land, and Jake did more of that consistently than Tyron. So there you have it, man. This was a fun fight. Jake wasn't as impressive, but the fighter he was across from was levels better and more dangerous than anybody he'd ever fought. So yeah, you see a lot of holes in Jake's game when you watch this back. Footwork and timing and ability was solid early on when he was fresh, but as that gas tank started to dwindle, you started to see him fall back on the things that he's been really good at from the start of his career. BJ Flores actually reached out to me and said that was a C+ performance, so they know that Jake has a long way to go, and I think this fight shows where he's at as far as his competition base, what level he's on. So my big takeaway from this fight, it wasn't the most impressive, it wasn't the most shocking and devastating and awesome performance from Jake Paul. And if you want to say that Tyron lost this more than Jake won it, I would agree with you to a certain extent. There were options for Tyron there, and he just never took advantage. That's not to take anything away from Jake. He came out and won this fight. You're told in any sport that you do, especially boxing, combat sports, you have to leave everything out there, not only to protect yourself, but to go out and win the fight. Jake left everything in that ring, and Tyron did not. But potentially we have a rematch because Tyron has accepted another Jake Paul bet. When will this man learn that he's taking bets that he can't win? Jake says if Tyron gets the tattoo, then maybe they'll have a rematch, and Tyron accepts it immediately. Me personally, I would have never taken the first bet, but taking the second one, getting the man tattooed on you just for a chance at maybe getting the rematch, that is, that's a rough look. But what happens next for Jake and Tyron? Possibly the rematch. Maybe Jake goes and fights Tommy Fury. But the biggest question of them all, why the hell is YouTube so afraid of my thick, juicy cheeks clapping on live stream? I truly don't know. But for all of the above, very soon, these questions that we have, will they be answered? I guess we'll find out.